Alright, good afternoon guys. Today we're going to show you how to track a main drive belt on your 2000S Easy Fold machine. Guys, we've got a fresh, brand new 2000 belt on here for you. Brand new, just put on. Now the easy thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to tension it first, then track it. First things first, the tension. I myself do this by hand. It's very simple. I just simply pull back as hard as I can. I'll shove my foot in somewhere on a machine and I pull back. Now you will need a half inch wrench for this. Any kind of wrench will do, socket, doesn't matter, whatever you want to use. So what we're going to do, we're just going to push back and tighten this down. Alright guys, I'm not going to torque these down just because I'm going to have to loosen them up to tension it anyway, but first things first, this is what I do. Alright, there's that one. Alright guys, to make your life easy, now you can see how much slag I still got in this belt. Obviously we've got a lot of tension to do, so get these things loosened up to where I can move it. Okay. There we go. There we go. That's better. Alright, now that's a little bit better. So now I've got a gap here, I've got a little more tension. Alright, before I go any further, I want to go ahead and get this as centered as possible on my belt if I can. So front and back. Go ahead and center that up just best as possible. Okay, next we will come here and figure out my tension. Guys, this is the hardest part, trying to explain a good amount of tension. Obviously I don't have some. You want it to be a little bit springy, but not so much when you're pushing down it doesn't move. So obviously you see I got a little bit of tension to make up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the back sides of my machine. Guys, these bolts right here are tensioner bolts. What they do is they run into a mount, if you will, or another slide that runs all the way inside this tube up to this bearing. So when I tighten this bolt down, it pulls on this whole piece right here, which in turn will pull my shaft back and tension my entire thing. So that's what we're going to do now. But before I do anything, I want to make sure, guys, see how far this bolt is sticking out? This is a big time no-no. I want to go ahead and turn this in as far as, darn near as far as possible. I'm going to leave it about an inch and a half out. So then what'll happen here is if you just back this whole bolt out, you'll back it out of that mount back here, and then you'll have this whole piece flopping, and it's just a booger and a half trying to get it back. So make sure we do this the right way. We don't loosen this whole bolt out. So let's do it. Both sides of this is pretty bad. About good. We'll leave that alone. I like that. We'll do the same side, or same thing on this side. Make sure it's darn close to that over there. Now I've got this. Now you see how I've got it set up. Next thing I want to do is tension the whole thing. Now here's what we do. You can either use 2 3/4 inch open face, a 3/4 crescent wrench, 2 crescent wrenches. It doesn't really matter, as long as you can hold both pieces here. So what I do is I hold the bolt head, as you can see. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn the jam nut, and as I tighten the jam nut, it'll pull that bolt out, which pulls this whole assembly piece and tensions my belt. So here we go. And as I do this, guys, I'm going to watch my belt here and make sure your bearings are nice and loose. Because if not, I will not move this bearing. So basically what we did, guys, I know it's kind of stupid. It's like, oh, we just tightened, now he's loosening. What I did is I put tension on the belt freehand. When I tighten this down, it keeps tension. Now when I spun this down, if you remember correctly, what I did is took the tension off of the bearing and put it on here where it needs to be. So now when I loosen this bearing back up, I hold tension in the belt. All right. So we're going to do this side and this side alone. We've loosened up our bearing here. Once again, we'll grab the bolt head. We're going to leave it alone and we will turn the jam nut. And as I turn it, you will watch this bearing creep back, which is tightening my belt. All right, I'm going to stop there and I'm going to do the other side. Same thing, guys. I'm going to hold the bolt head, turn the jam nut. Oh. I'm happy with both sides. I've got both of these nuts just about the same distance outside the machine, so I'm going to stop there. As you can see, I've got good pressure on my belt. I still think we might need a little ways to go, but now here is the stopping point. What I will do now is I will turn the machine on, we'll run the machine, we'll press the start button, run it, and you'll watch. This is where the tracking comes in, so the belt's going to move left or right, one way or the other. And whichever way it does, we'll adjust to compensate. So that being said, let's plug the machine up, press the start button, let's move forward. Alright guys, first things first, I want to reiterate how this has to happen. Before we do anything, I've obviously plugged my machine up to my power, I've got my main air going. Before I press the start button, make sure that I did not leave, or you did not leave, any tools in your machine. So I will look high, low, make sure. And even so, before I press start, I go to my machine right here, I turn it to jog. We've got a jog run. I turn it to jog, and I press that button, press the start button, let it go. That right there will tell me if anything's crunching, if anything's in the machine, if anything's acting up wrong, you'll hear it. Now that I've done that a few times, all right, I know I'm safe. I've visually inspected the machine, I know there's nothing there. Start it, let it run. All right guys, now, this is the most tedious part of this machine. Tracking will not happen in 2 minutes. This is going to take you 15 to 20. Just be prepared, allow yourself ample time. Now like we stated earlier, you can see I had it centered up, my belt has walked to the right. We're going to look up front, it's doing the same thing there. So I know that my belt is walking to the right side of the machine. So first things first, we always start with the drive. Alright, now since it's walking this way, what I need to do is put more tension on this side. So I will come back, I will loosen my bolts here, go back to the tension bolt we spoke of earlier in the video with the 3/4 inch, and we're going to move this back. So I will show you how we do that. First things first, we will come here, we're going to loosen our bearing. Now remember, nothing's going to happen because all the tension that's on this is now on this piece inside the frame, right? Be very, very careful. We do not get hands, fingers, all this is very dangerous. Just be careful. If you're more safe, cut the machine off to do this. It doesn't hurt my feelings. Just be very, very, very careful. Alright guys, now that I've got this loosened, if you stop the machine, go ahead and press start. Get that going again. Obviously, let me try to explain this. Alright, so if you imagine I've got a shaft going through this whole thing, right? Alright, my belt is walking to one side. If I put tension over here, what it's going to do is pull out, which will cause it to walk even further. So what I'm doing is compensating. I'm going to tension the side that it's walking to. Therefore, I'm moving the shaft this way, right? We'll pivot it out just a little bit further, which is going to push that belt back towards the left side. You'll see this happen. Now, everything in small increments from here. A little goes a long way. I mean, a quarter turn goes a long way. Once again, 3/4 of any kind doesn't matter. Grab the bolt head, turn the jam nut. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and, that's a pretty big gap to walk, so I'm going to go ahead and give this about a half turn. Alright, now that I've done that, guys, set your tools down, walk away for 5 minutes, leave the machine running. It will literally take a couple minutes for you to see anything change. Anything. Walk away from this first part. Alright? We're going to give this a few minutes, we're going to cut the video, I'll come back after a few minutes and we'll just keep going from here. Alright guys, it's been about 5 minutes, we'll come back to the machine, nothing's happened. Obviously the gap's gotten a little bit smaller, you notice? I'm going to give it a 1/4 turn this time, just a 1/4 turn. Remember, a little goes a long, long way when it comes to tracking belts. So I'm going to grab the bolt head again, turn the jam nut. 1/4 turn, once again, walk away. Do not sit here, this will drive you nuts if you sit here and stare at it. Let's walk away. I'm going to give it a few more minutes, we'll be right back with you. Alright guys, we're going to move forward. As you can see, I've got my gap just about taken care of over here. It's almost walked perfectly center of that belt. I'm going to leave that alone and we're going to focus on the front. As you can see, I've still got about a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch gap up here that needs to walk over. This might be a little bit scary, guys. The easiest way to do this, instead of taking all your tools out, loosening, trying to get this all centered back up, the easiest thing to do is take you a piece of aluminum. And the reason I say aluminum is softer than steel. You don't want to be banging on steel and, you know, putting burrs and angles, all sorts of crap on it. So take you a piece of aluminum. Now since I need to walk this to the right, same thing applies. I'm going to come to the side of the machine that needs the work done. So I'm going to push the belt that way. So in turn, I'm going to push this shaft forward to get it to walk over. So what I'm going to do is take my aluminum and I'm just going to give this a good smack. And you'll see that whole block go forward and then we'll watch the belt crawl. Now you can see it working, guys. See how it's getting smaller and smaller? Too far. Alright, that's good. I'm glad I did this. Alright guys, now you can see I've got it centered, but I accidentally went just a little too far. Now a lot of you guys out there are going to say, I could care less about that little thing right there. This will work perfectly. You are finished, done. Let the machine run for another 5 minutes. Make sure nothing walks drastically. But at this point, you can go ahead and run your machine. We're done. For my personal opinion, I'm a little OCD. I'm going to fix it. But that being said, now that I've gone a little too far, I'm just going to go opposite what I did. One good pop, you'll see that walk back. Now as that's tracking, I'm going to look back on my other back here again. And as you can tell, we haven't really done anything. It's still centered up here. I'm happy. If that makes you upset, well, you can always release the tension just a little bit. We need to move it back here. So we'll just do the same thing, but opposite what we did. Guys, that is it. Simple, very tedious, very time consuming, but I hope this helps out. Thank you.